It's a pleasure to be here. So yeah, as you said very relevantly, I'm going to talk about building a coaching culture, which is not a new topic actually. There has been many research going on about it. We've been talking about it in the context of Industry 4.0. But I think the remote workforce, the fact that came with the pandemic, basically just made it impossible for us to turn a blind eye to it anymore. So it's like a very day-to-day topic we're dealing with. And I've been reading a lot about like how do we build a real culture while everybody is working in different places. So that is a very common topic these days. So I just want to start by asking all the participants about their biggest challenge of working remotely. You can think about this as a HR professional of your organization, for the whole organization. You can think about it on the level of being a leader to your team, or you can even think about it as an individual, as an employee working in the organization. So what is the biggest challenges? When we look at it, World Economic Forum has recently made a survey around it. And this was the results. Like you would see that 20% is about collaboration, communication, 20% is about feeling lonely, not being able to unplug, loss of motivation, and very few of this is really about the technical stuff, like finding a reliable Wi-Fi and that kind of stuff. And when we were first moving into working remotely, those were the main concerns. But as you would all see and probably experience, what's really going on is really about the human elements of the workforce. And we know that actually coaching provides a proven solution to these issues. Research shows again and again that coaching improves communication skills, it generates higher engagement, and it improves productivity. But at the same time, this is not only what coaching research shows us. Gallup has also recently did a survey, and what they found out is remote teams can actually experience significantly higher engagement, even more than the on-site teams. But the key to success is the amount of meaningful feedback. And it's not from the feedback from the managers, but also the feedback between the team members, and this happening a few times per week. So it's not, we're not talking about, performance evaluation type of stuff or 360s. We're talking about having an open learning culture within the organization. So when we talk about coaching in this context, I'm not talking about coaching only as a tool, only as a development tool, only as a well-being tool. I'm talking about culture in a more broader sense, as a mindset, as an approach, and as a culture across the organization. But when we look at including a coaching culture throughout the organization, what we really mean is where people take responsibility, really. It's like every individual are really taking responsibility for their work rather than taking instructions. So we are talking about a culture, not a top-down one, but from a bottom-up culture where everybody takes responsibility not only for their own tasks, but to develop the organization, to grow the organization, and to grow each other at the same time. So it's involvement of people and inclusion of all levels of people into the culture, rather than the typical command and control culture, which in this case, especially much more difficult to handle, thinking that everybody is living and working in different locations in their homes. So it's no longer possible to do that control anyway. So, and actually we don't need it anyway. So we're talking about a coaching culture like this level. But the research shows, recently ICF has done a global survey, the biggest survey ever they did, and they found out 3 main obstacles to build a coaching culture. It is mostly limited support from the senior leaders. That's the top issue. And the other parts of the issue is it's impossible, not impossible, but very difficult, let's say, to measure the impact of coaching because there is coaching confidentiality and there is lack of budget. Because coaching is generally a very expensive activity to bring it to everybody in the organization. So I've been a coach for 15 years now, and I've seen organizations trying to build the coaching culture most of the time in these following steps. First, they start coaching the top executives, basically to handle the issue of getting the support of top management. Once they receive executive coaching, they have the notion of like how coaching works for them. And then we say like, okay, this goes very well. So let's, train HR people as coaches so that HR people can become either internal coaches or they can, start building coaching programs within the organization. And it goes well as well. And then we say like, let's train our managers to be better coaches. And they get a 2-day training. And that's generally where the coaching culture ideal comes to a stop. Because what generally happens in real life is these managers who have never been coached before themselves, who have never been on the receiving end of coaching, now we're asking them to give coaching to other people. And they're a little bit suspicious about the whole process anyway, and they're now trying something new, and they go to the office and they start asking coaching questions to their employees who have no idea at all about coaching. So what generally happens in real life is when a manager starts asking those questions, the employee feels like, why is she asking me these? Like, what is the right answer to give to these questions? So there is no trust there. There is almost like being a guinea pig of somebody trying a new skill set. And very suddenly, at the very beginning, they say like, it was a weird experience. And then they go back to their original command and control style. So what we are doing is with our digital platform, what we're able to do using the technology to overcome these two barriers. One is we give the platform, the digital coaching platform, to the managers so that they go through the platform and then they receive one-on-one coaching with coaches. But thanks to the preparation they have done on the platform, rather than spending 12 hours of sessions, maybe it's something like 2-3 hours of sessions with a professional coach to get them the notion of how coaching works and how to develop them better. So with that capability, we can actually bring coaching to more people, overcoming that budget barrier. The other level is then we also give the platform to the employees of the managers so that they go through the platform, get a notion of how coaching works, and they come to the coaching sessions with their managers with some curiosity rather than, what's happening right now. So they're like, oh, I've done all this work, and what is my manager going to tell me? So it's more like an open dialogue where everybody is much more curious, much more open to each other, and much more trusting each other. So we have a blended approach, as I said. There is the digital platform where people go through self-coaching exercises. And then there is also the human touch of the either a professional coach or a manager, while everybody gets a notion of how coaching works and they start believing the process. And this is how the platform looks like. All these yellow steps you would see are mini coaching sessions. And then once they do all these exercises, like selecting from photos, evaluating themselves, writing things down, and then they're able to understand how the coaching process really works. They start trusting the process, and then they share their content with somebody else, and then start having their coaching conversations. And of course, this creates a huge amount of quantifiable data for the HR, for something like coaching that is generally, as I said, covered with confidentiality. So then we can create like who's really engaged, who's really taking action, and that kind of data we can really have. And when we're talking about the program's journey, we typically have, like, we've over this COVID period run this in multiple organizations. Most widespread was the AXA insurance company that we did. So we basically started on two levels. So one level was about the leader, the other level was about the team member. And for the leaders, we started with a kickoff, and then they came to the training to learn about the coaching mindset. But at the same time, we give them the digital coaching exercises to get to know about how coaching really works from a coachee's perspective. And then we did the other training modules about the skill sets, about the dialogue, what they've done on the platform. They brought it to the training, and then they had peer-to-peer coaching under supervision of professional coaches. And then they started discussing about how do we implement this whole thing in our culture, in our organization's culture. So it was like a group coaching at that level for them. And then we also coached the leaders. But rather than, having, as I said, maybe 12 hours of coaching session, it was like 3 hours of coaching. And then we started the journey with the team members. Then we kicked off for them, and then we gave them the digital platform to really understand the notion. And then they started having conversations with their managers. And then we had the supervision about what worked and what did not. So that's the general, a very practical example of how it was applied very recently. So I'm now open to have your questions, and we can discuss further.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Ozlem. It was really great. And I was sort of debating with myself when I was going through the presentation. What's your thoughts? Do you think every manager can be a coach? Like, say you go about it, I feel like they're going to be, but is it actually possible? Can everyone be a coach? What's sort of your thoughts, having worked in this space for a while now?
Yeah, I would say everybody can become a coach. Some of them have a longer journey to have. That's generally how I approach it. Like, some of them are more closer to it. But of course, when we handhold them better, the better we do, the better they get. But I remember that one of the participants was actually saying at the beginning of the training, like, where does this really write that I have to develop people? So he was so much, against all this whole idea. And then still at the end of the training, he became like, okay, so I want to do this coaching more. So I think it is like, when we do the hand holding, it does happen easier for some people, a little bit more harder for others.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's what is so great about this approach. It's a whole experience. It's a whole kind of, whole person, whole being approach. And so what's your thoughts around, so with digital coaching, digital learning, how much can we sort of connect the experience, directly with the actual work itself? So sort of getting close to the flow of work. What's some of your thoughts around that, on how we can try and make so it doesn't feel like it's an add-on, it's just part of what we're doing every day?
Yeah, that's exactly what we are trying to do. Like, the platform I showed is like very customizable. So we basically, when we're starting a project with an organization, we sit down and think about like what is really out there already. So we try to integrate, if they're using a certain digital platform, we can integrate with them as well. But also we also include like, what are their business goals? What is the strategic goal of the organization for this coaching process? And what are kind of conversations we need the managers to have with their employees? So it's not a like on-the-shelf exercises we're talking about. Yes, there are on-the-shelf exercises that generally goes for everyone. Let's say something like about visioning, about delegation and those kind of stuff. but some parts of it is really very unique to the organization and its business needs. So we just design it based on that.
Yeah, great. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for that. It was a really great talk. And it's just, as you said earlier, you know, these trends were happening, but with the pandemic, that's just exploded, and we can't ignore it, and we need to embrace it and do it well. So it's great to see yourself and bring that to life for us. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Natal.